Ed Bernstein Show. Now, here's Ed.
Well, early voting started yesterday. Have you mailed in your ballot? If not, wait until after our show because you're about to meet Attorney General Aaron Ford. Now, okay, you're getting me confused. We were having a conversation before we went on camera here because the spelling of his name, A-A-R-O-N, Ford. Okay, most people just say Aaron.
Yeah, and I respond to Aaron.
It's very biblical, right?
That's right.
Very biblical. Right. And you respond to Aaron, but it's not really pronounced Aaron. And you like to say apron without the P.
That's right. My mama calls me Aaron, so that's my name. It's apron without the P. Aaron.
But the accent on like a hard A.
That's right.
Yeah. Aaron. Right.
Yeah. So
it's an important connotation. Doesn't matter when you're voting, right?
Yeah. Well,
either way, it's A-A-R-O-N.
It's spelled Aaron, pronounced Aaron, but I now respond to Aaron too because of the Key and Peele skit, right? But yeah, it's good to be here.
Look, you have a lot of experience legislatively, having been in the state Senate, and you were a majority leader.
I was.
Right? And what was that like?
Well, I enjoyed my time in the state Senate. I ran for the state Senate because I wanted to help the people in our state, specifically in the area of education. That's when I first ran. I first ran in 2010. As you may recall, I lost. Ran again in 2012 and won, and was minority leader in 14 and majority leader in 16. And I really enjoyed my time in the Senate, whether it was as a rank and file member or as a leader, because we were able to put pen to paper on some very important policies for our state.
Such as, and what are some of the things you're most proud of having worked on as a majority leader in our state Senate?
Well, listen, right now I'm the Attorney General of Nevada, and I'm the top law enforcement officer in the state. What I've said is that we should always be striving to improve relationships between law enforcement and the communities that we serve. And so I'm very proud of bills that I passed that did that in the state Senate, including body cameras. I was the senator who sponsored the body camera legislation in 2015 that required our state officers to wear them, and then in 2017 we expanded it to essentially all law enforcement officers in the state. And I'm proud of that because it's benefited law enforcement, to be sure, to cut down on people who would make false claims about their interactions, but also it protects the community from those who would be unscrupulous in that regard, you know, the handful that would. And so very proud of that. Very proud of also the work that we've done to support our economy, whether it was passing bills that attempted to raise the minimum wage, or working on paid sick leave bills. These are types of things that are important to those who sent me to Carson City, and I enjoyed working on them.
Yeah, and by the way, that's one of the questions on the ballot, right, to raise the minimum wage.
Right.
Which, to $12, I believe, is the question, right? Yeah, I don't know how anybody even supports a family on $12 an hour.
I suspect it's tough.
Right. But I mean, look, you can't get people to work in Nevada right now for $12 an hour.
Right.
In restaurants and landscapers and whatnot. But anyway, okay, so you became the Attorney General. Now, I think a lot of people have a misconception of what Attorney General really does. I mean, you talk about law enforcement, and there is a whole, big criminal compartment to the Attorney General's office. But it's not like you're out there in the streets patrolling things.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Can you explain exactly what the function is when it comes to criminal
Certainly, and I think you described it correctly. There's a misconception. I mean, to be sure, we have some criminal jurisdiction in my office. Elder abuse, cyber crimes, Medicaid fraud, insurance fraud, those types of things. Any of the crimes that happen in our prisons, inmate-on-inmate murders, for example. Those are the things that fall within my jurisdiction. But the things that you're seeing every day in the streets, whether they be burglaries or robberies, those are for the local police departments to deal with, Metro, for example, or for the district attorney to prosecute. And again, it's only a small part of what we do in our office. It's about 10% of what we do. The other part of what we do is civil-oriented work that I've been doing for 21 years. So it's a very varied office with some great professionals in it, and we enjoy what we do.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just giving legal advice to different state departments and committees and boards within the state.
That's right.
It takes up a big deal of it.
Yeah, the state is my client. I'm the people's lawyer, to be sure, and that is the first obligation I have, and that's to our Constitution, both state and federal, and representing the people. But my clients are also the governor, the Secretary of State, the treasurer, all of the administrative agencies, and others.
When you were elected, the previous Attorney General was Adam Laxalt. When you got to the office, how did you find? Were you satisfied with the way you found the office? I mean, was it functioning the way you thought it should be functioning?
Well, listen, I won't try to draw comparisons and contrasts. What I will say is that every Attorney General brings into the office their own particular focus. Adam, to his credit, had a focus on things that a couple of things that I carried over on services to our military community. The Office of Military Legal Assistance, for example, is something that is still up and operating in our office. He focused on guardianship issues, and we've continued that as well. But I brought a new focus that was premised on one word, easy word to say, a tough one to implement, to be sure, and that word is justice. I introduced myself to my 400 brand new colleagues on day 2 on the job, and I said our job is justice. And we look at that through the criminal justice lens. We look at that through consumer protection and bringing justice to those who've been defrauded and those who do the defrauding. And we look at it in the protection of our constitutional and our civil rights, including, for example, the right to vote. So we focus on justice in this office, and I'm proud of the work we've done the last 3 years, 10 months, and a handful of days, and we look forward to continuing that the next 4 years.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your background. Born in Dallas, Texas, right? You had 3 siblings?
Well, two younger brothers. I'm the oldest of 3 children. Yes,
all boys?
All boys. My mama used to love watching My 3 Sons when she was a kid.
Yeah.
So she wanted to, I don't know their names.
Robbie, Mike, and I forget the other
Okay,
one.
I don't know their names, but
Chip,
she loved
maybe.
that show, and she loved that she had 3 sons because she wanted to get a license plate that said My 3 Sons. But yes, I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Went to Texas A&M University. Went thereafter to the George Washington University and got a master's degree in international education. Then I went to the.
At that point in your life, what were you aiming for? What did you want to become? You wanted to go into education and teaching at that time?
Well, I was in education. My undergraduate degree was in math education with a minor in Spanish. Maybe not quite a minor, but certainly a lot of courses in Spanish. So I was a math teacher. And when I moved to Washington, D.C. to go to the George Washington University, I studied international education because I wanted to open up an international system of schools, utilizing my Spanish and exchange opportunities and things of that sort. So left there, and I went to the Ohio State University to pursue my Ph.D. In educational administration, picked up another master's degree in educational administration and my law degree. So by the time I was 29, I had 5 college degrees and several options that I could undertake for a career.
Yeah. Look, I wanted to ask you about your Spanish because you speak it so lovely. And I've been taking Spanish lessons basically my whole life and have big trouble with it. You're very fluent in it. I mean, so other than taking it in school, did you actually go somewhere to become so fluent?
Absolutamente. Yo he estado hablando español desde yo tenía como 14 años de edad. Y yo estudié por semestre en Puebla, México, allá en la Universidad de las Américas. Y me encanta la cultura hispana y por eso estaba estudiando. Absolutely. I've been speaking Spanish since I was 14 years old. I studied abroad in Mexico at the University of the Americas in Mexico. Enjoyed myself. I really enjoy the Latino culture, and I've enjoyed learning Spanish and speaking it almost the entirety of my life at this point.
Wow. Because you certainly are fluent. I wanted to talk to you also about some of the things that you didn't mention that you did in the legislature about, like you passed some laws regarding rape kits.
I did.
That were very important at the time because I guess we're losing some rape kits, I guess, and they
weren't being tested.
They were being contested.
They were not being tested.
Missing out on convictions because of that.
That's right.
Right. So what exactly did the law create?
Yeah. Well, there were some simultaneous efforts happening in the legislature that myself and then Assemblywoman Teresa Benitez Thompson wanted to work on. We wanted to put a time frame on how long the rape kits could stand without being tested. At the same time, the Attorney General, to his credit, at that time was likewise focusing on it. And so we were able to work together to get funding to help test the backlog of rape kits. And during my administration, we've been able to say happily that the rape kit test log at that point had been wiped clean. And some convictions have occurred as a result, and there will be others, I'm certain, as time progresses.
Right. And is there compliance in that? Is that kind of functioning the way it should be right now?
Well, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, again, most of these types of tests are happening at the local levels, and my office works with them as frequently as we can and tries to be as helpful as we can, whether it's providing funding or otherwise. And so, we're proud of the work we've done in that regard. It's been over the course of, I'd say, 3 attorneys general, Captain Cortez Masto, my predecessor, myself, me when I was in the legislature, and that work will continue.
Right. And you also were working on the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act.
Right.
What did that provide?
Yeah, well, it provides worker fairness for pregnant workers. At the end of the day, what we've learned in our state is that we are ahead of the game in many respects. We talk about this. We talk about women's rights, for example, and the franchise of voting being afforded in the 1920s. Well, it happened in Nevada before that. We talk about the Equal Rights Amendment. Still, we're arguing that in the federal court system right now, but we have the opportunity on the ballot right now to put into our state constitution. And so that particular act was one of a litany of acts that we were passing to help equalize the system and to provide fair rights for women.
Yeah. And I assume the next thing we're going to talk, I was going to talk to you about pharmaceutical companies, because you did some work in the legislature.
That's
and now
right.
you also have done a lot of work as Attorney General
Right.
in some of the opioid lawsuits. But even as when you were working as a state legislature, you helped pass some legislation
That's right.
holding pharmaceutical companies accountable, actually more transparent.
That's right. It's a
More
transparency
transparent.
bill. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a transparency bill. Working with then Senator Ivana Cancela, she worked very hard on that bill, and I was fortunate to be a co-sponsor with her on that bill and to work with her. I was majority leader at the time, and we were able to pass legislation that provides some transparency into the pricing of insulin. That bill passed, and there have been opportunities now, I think, for us to have a little more insight into the pricing of insulin, thanks to, again, Senator Cancela, but also it was, during the time period we were working together to try to pursue that. Right.
And of course, the federal law and that changed somewhat, because now there's a Medicare what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
There's the bill changed, Biden's bill, that provides up to some insulin for Medicare recipients.
Yeah, can't exceed $35 or something.
Something like
That's
that, right? I mean, because look, insulin's probably one of the most common medicines that we use. Keeps people alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
My dad lost a leg from diabetes.
But I have family members who've likewise lost some digits on their fingers or feet, and it's an important issue. To Ivana's credit, she pursued it vigorously, and I was fortunate and happy to be able to be a co-sponsor and to help us to shepherd that through the system.
What are you looking forward to do in the next 4 years?
Yeah. Well, again, our focus has been on justice the last 4 years. That will remain our focus. But let me talk about specifically some of the areas that are important to us right now. We talk about criminal justice and some of what my jurisdiction is. And we talk about public safety. And one of the key components we're seeing now is that although violent crimes, generally speaking, are on the decrease according to metrics, there is a particular form of crime that is on the increase, and that's gun crimes. And so what we intend to do is continue focusing on public safety by focusing on removing guns from the hands of people who should not have them, ex-offenders, domestic batterers. We've continued to defend the laws that require background checks, that allow for red flag laws to go into a place, or early risk protection orders, as they call it.
You want to explain what that is?
Certainly. So there is a bill that says that a law enforcement officer can go before a judge and remove a person's guns if that person is going to be a danger to himself or to others. There's a proof that there's a litany of proof that you have to undergo before that's done. There's a due process component to it. It passed, and we were sued over it, and we are litigating that lawsuit right now. I will continue to support that because it is proven that when it is utilized, it can reduce gun violence. Comparably, ghost guns. The legislature passed ghost gun legislation last cycle, and we are now litigating the enforcement of ghost gun legislation. And those are guns that are impossible to track, but they are nonetheless have component parts that are being mailed to people, and they're able to put it together.
And printed. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because these printers, in today's world, you can create a plastic gun.
That's right. Yeah.
At home.
That's right. And so, and you can get the pieces mailed to you in the mail, and you can order it online and things of that sort. So, we are litigating that right now. We will continue to focus on common sense gun safety measures so that those of us who are responsible gun owners, I own guns, plural, and I own them responsibly. And it's important that we continue that progress moving forward.
It seems like the two biggest campaign issues going on 2022 is one, the economy, and two, women's right to choose. How is your office affected by those two issues?
Well, let me take the latter first. Obviously, the right to choose is under attack. There have been efforts to take us back, and in fact, the Supreme Court has taken us back 50 years. We have a statutory right in our state that has codified abortion rights up to 24 weeks. What we don't have are protections against necessarily undermining that particular right. And so I will stay at the forefront of protecting the statutory right that we have in this state. And that's as opposed to the individual running against me who has intimated that she would prosecute and imprison women who seek abortions. That's dangerous. And at the end of the day...
How can somebody do that if it's still lawful in Nevada?
I will leave it to her to explain herself.
Okay.
But the information is there. And what we know is that she's adverse to this particular right. And what we don't want to do is to entrust someone to protect our rights who has already voiced an opposition to them. And who has demonstrated that she's not able to, stand up for the right side of the law in this particular issue.
I mean, I guess technically, because these states where it's outlawed, the governor has said, hey, he's going to welcome those potential patients to come to Nevada to have procedures. And I guess technically the Attorney General could disagree with that and file charges, right, if a woman would come from another state.
Well, look, I think there are laws in other states, bounty laws, for example, in Texas. There are laws that Idaho, if I remember correctly, are contemplating that would prohibit interstate travel. So extradition issues come into play. There are so many ways that an Attorney General could undermine this particular right that we should not countenance that level of adversity toward this right. So that's on the second issue. The first issue on the economy, I mean, to be sure, the Attorney General's office has little to do with the economy, with the exception of bringing justice to those who are defrauding our constituents and our residents. As I've indicated, we've brought in over $100 million in settlement funds against companies that have defrauded, whether it relates to education loans or whether it relates to emissions issues. Acme companies selling widgets, we're going to go after them if they are proceeding in a fraudulent manner. And those are ways in which that we could help with the economy. Not to mention during the COVID pandemic, where my office was the one that was helping to address price gouging issues. And as a result, we passed an anti-price gouging law that only kicks in during emergencies, to be sure. But these are ways in which my office can assist in times of economic stress.
You also brought in a lot of money from the opioid cases.
That's right.
Right? It puts money into the state. Where's that money being used?
So we've procured we've been able to obtain $330 million that will be distributed over the course of 18 years. It will go to the state for determination on how to spend the money. My office has nothing to do with the determination on how the money is spent, except to indicate that it has to be toward abatement of the opioid crisis. Right. And so we have a committee for a resilient Nevada that has engaged in conversation with experts in the field, whether they be addiction experts or social workers or medical professionals or community organizations, and they've developed a needs assessment, and they will determine how that money is spent once it is brought in and delivered to them. Again, it is not a determination that my office makes, it's one that the state will make, and it will have to go toward the abatement of the opioid crisis.
How does one institute a complaint? Let's say you're a senior and you feel like you're being taken advantage of by a scam. How does it get from there to you?
A number of different ways. You can call us, and we can try to take a complaint over the phone if you are a senior who doesn't want to utilize the internet, for example. But if you use the internet, you can go to the internet, you can go to our complaint section and fill out the complaint. You can fax in a complaint. You can come into the office. There are several different ways you can get to us to present us issues that need to be addressed.
So, so does somebody in your office respond to each one of those, or do you wait till you see well, there's a trend here and take a look at it? I mean, you don't have unlimited manpower.
We do not, but we do respond when we receive a complaint. We will, at a minimum, acknowledge the complaint, and then we will get it routed to, if it's something that our office can handle, we will get it routed to intern it to our office members. If it is something that is in someone else's jurisdiction, we will route it to that particular jurisdiction and let the complainant know that we are, suggesting that you put a phone call into this particular agency, because those are the ones. This is the agency that has primary jurisdiction over issues like that.
It seems like every election, I say this, I mean, every election gets dirtier and more difficult than the last one. Just when you think it can't get any worse, the commercials seem to get worse. The misinformation seems to be, exaggerated even more. When you look at your race now, you're presently going through, compared to previous races, do you see a change?
It has become a lot more antagonistic, to be sure. Over the course of my 12 years in politics at this point, things have gotten progressively worse. This has been a difficult election as well. I don't need to remind you of the way this election started. It was with us learning that the person running against me said that I should be, I'm sure you will bleep this part out, but she said that I should be hanging from a crane, right? And that sets the tenor and the tone of an election. Again, I said to you off camera that I don't run against anybody in my elections. I run for the office of Attorney General. I run for the people of the state of Nevada. The person running against me is indeed running against me, and it is that type of rancor and language that leads to what you see today, which is a breakdown in civil society.
You viewed that as something racist?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the commercials, when you sit there and you're watching an opponent's commercial or somebody else's commercial, I mean, there's got to be, instances in that commercial that are just exaggerated or untruths. I mean, how does it make you feel?
Well, I don't like it, to be sure. Yeah. I mean, people lie, and one of the first things we did in our commercials was to let the public know people are going to lie because they can get away with it. But I want people to know that I'm Aaron Forward. I'm the one who has been fighting for you in the trenches since 2012 when I was first elected. I will continue to fight for you. I will continue to pursue justice through the lies. And I feel very confident that the people that are hearing this, it's resonating with them, and we're going to prevail in November.
And how do you ensure that people actually learn the truth? I mean, that's the difficulty here. I mean,
it is.
I mean, the lies become, you say them long enough and enough times, and they become truths.
Yeah, it is difficult, and part of it is communicating. And we communicate, on television. We communicate in person. We communicate. I'm going to probably 4 different community events today, talking to people who are going to be going to the polls in short order, and letting them know, person to person, that this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm about, these are what the lies are, and I open myself to vulnerabilities by letting people know, ask me whatever you want to. And that way people know who Aaron Ford is, and that's the reason why we were able to prevail these last few election cycles.
Most people don't understand the breadth and size of your office. Right, you have the largest law firm in the state.
Well, Wolfson would debate me on that. It depends on the day, right? But yes.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, he may, but you have more pockets and more areas than the district attorney has.
We have a lot of work to do, no question.
Yeah. So, what is the size of your office?
About 400 lawyers and support staff.
Right. And look, we're all having difficulty hiring people. Does that permeate up to lawyers in the Attorney General's office?
It does. Now we're seeing a couple of things happening simultaneously. Our salaries at the state level obviously have always been historically low compared to municipalities. We bring in individuals, train them, and they get recruited away because they get higher pay. But what we see is also people want to come to our office. This last 4 years, people have bought into what it is that we're talking about: justice in the broadest sense, and focusing on that area. People want to come work for us, and we are getting applications, and many are being hired, but we still have vacancies, and we still need to bring in those resources to fulfill the duties of our office.
And how about non-lawyer staff?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so the 400 includes non-lawyers as well.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's you have a big administrative staff as well.
Absolutely. Right? They're the ones who make the office move, to tell the truth, right? You know that.
Right.
You've had your own law firm for a while, and you could do nothing that you do without your support. So,
that's for sure. Right. Yeah. No question about that. So, So you're going around, you're speaking. You have debates?
I am not debating the young lady who wants to see me hanging from a crane.
Yeah, I mean, because it's so nasty.
I have no intention to stand in a room with her if I could control it.
Yeah, she's taking the personal route instead of what are the issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what about some of the people you have to work with? I mean, you work very closely with the district attorney, right? Steve Wolfson is running for re-election.
Right.
It looks like he's pretty solid in there. You work closely with the Metro.
I do.
All the police departments
right.
around the state, right? And we have a new sheriff in Metro. I don't really know what's going on up north. Do they have a new sheriff also?
No, the Sheriff Balaam will remain the sheriff. And I work with District Attorney Chris Hicks up north, and I work with District Attorney Ingram in Elko. You name it across the state. I have a statewide office, and I interact at a statewide level with people all across the state.
I know you do. You're very much involved with the prison system. Give me your 5-year plan of where you'd like to see that incarceration go in Nevada.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. We are the advisors and the lawyers for the Nevada Department of Corrections.
Right.
I sit also on the board of prison commissioners, but that policy is set at the administrative level with the Board of Prisons, with the Department of Corrections. What we have done, even before I was Attorney General, was I ran bills to help rehabilitate prisoners. I view my job as Attorney General to take the holistic approach to criminal justice. To be sure, we have to punish those who break the law and imprison them, but we also have to rehabilitate them and to restore them to the community. Right. And so I have passed bills to do all of those, to strengthen penalties for domestic abuses, for example, elder abuse. But I've also passed bills that have tried to educate prisoners who are on the way out the door so they can get a degree from a community college, for example, or a trade. And so those are the types of things that we do. We try to be holistic in our approach, and that's the way that we improve public safety.
Hey, Ron, we have about 30 seconds left. Why don't you look in the camera and tell people why you're the best person for the job?
Well, listen, I appreciate the ability to serve the people of the state of Nevada. At the end of the day, I think we want someone in this office who's going to always look out for the humanity and dignity of every Nevadan. Period. Whether you're part of the Nevada family that's been here for 3 generations or 3 weeks, we want to look out for you. Whether you are gay or straight, we want to look out for you. Whether you are black or white, we want to look out for you. And at the end of the day, I believe that it is incumbent upon us as a society to elevate people into positions of power who are going to do exactly that. I'm Aaron Ford. I hope I can earn your vote, because that will be what I will do. Thank you so much.
When sorry is not enough. Enough said. Call Ed. EdBernstein.com.